Good morning and welcome to those of you joining us online. You have found us at Surprise Christian Church. I'm TJ Kummerfeld. My voice is back and I hope you're ready because it's going to be a great day today. You guys are joined by the congregation that's already here. And as with each week, I want to invite you to come and join us Sunday at 10:30 here in Surprise, Indiana. We're a small church, but we've got a big spirit. And if you don't come, how are you going to hear about the church picnic we have coming up in just a couple of weeks? Or the concert we have coming up in a little over a month? And it's going to be a great time, and we would love to see you there. So follow us on Facebook, and you'll see the updates, but we really want to get you to come in here so I can shake your hand and say hi as well. This week we're going to be in 1 Samuel. As school's getting ready to start up, summer is coming to a close. I know a lot of teachers are going in tomorrow to start setting up, and then for Seymour, for Ellettsville, I believe Columbus as well, school starts on Wednesday. So it's time where we have a lot of demands for our time, a lot of demands for attention, or all of a sudden, a lot of free time because we're not having to babysit the kiddos anymore. So it raises a question: who is your king? Who rules your life? So we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 8 today as we ask this question, but then really talk about King Jesus. So 1 Samuel chapter 8, and we're going to be starting off with verses 1 through 7. I invite you to stand in the honor of the reading of God's scriptures. 1 Samuel 8, 1 through 7. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel's leaders. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of the second was Abijah. And they served at Beersheba, but his sons did not follow his ways, Samuel's ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribes and perverted justice. So all the elders of the Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." But when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel. So he prayed to the Lord, and the Lord told them, "Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king." May God add to the blessing of our understanding of his words today. You may be seated. Have you ever heard the song, and I'm sure most all of you have, "He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands." And then I only remember one other verse. I don't know if there's more verses. "He's got you and me, brother, in his hands." And it continues on. A children's song that holds so much truth to it. What the Bible goes through teaching us, and there's a lot in it, but one of the themes is that God has us. He has the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. Why at times do we lose that? As we're in 1 Samuel 8, Israel is entering a prosperous time, but they are struggling. They have a prophet that leads them most of the time, a priest, but the priest doesn't lead them to war. The prophet doesn't guide them in conquest. And they become jealous of these other nations that have a king. A king to rule them, a king to tell them what to do, a king to lead them into battle, because they want someone physical to follow instead of this spiritual God that they have. So they come to Samuel, who is a great prophet, and they say to him the first words, "You're old. I'm going to see my dad later this afternoon. I wonder what would happen if those are the words that I first said to him after their drive from Iowa here. You're old. Probably pack up, turn around, and then I won't get to spend the time with my grandparents. But your sons aren't following your ways. You see, Samuel was a good prophet. He was a good leader. But he wasn't a king. He was a priest. He was a spokesperson for God. And as he appointed his sons to follow, to lead Israel, he hears all of a sudden, and he is known before, that they accept bribes and pervert justice. Now that can look like all number of things. It can look as them being asked, well, who's guilty, this person or that person? And, well, the person who's guilty is the one who gives me the least amount of money right here. They make rules and decrees or add anything for their own gain to further themselves instead of God and the kingdom. So we can see why the Israelites would say, we don't want Joel as a king. We don't want Abijah as a king or as a priest, as a ruler. We don't want him to lead us, let alone be priests. I should put it that way. So instead, appoint us a king. And on the surface, it sounds good. If Joel and Abijah aren't following God, if they aren't leading people to God, then you should get a ruler who's following God. But that's not the true hearts of the Israelites. And I think we skip over that. We can make an excuse for why they'd want a king, but God says in verse 7, they have rejected me as their king. And in verse 8, he continues on, as they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are doing to you. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his rights. As they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt. Well, what happened for God to bring them up out of Egypt? We have the 10 plagues. We have the crossing of the Red Sea that then floods Pharaoh's armies and wipes them out. We have 40 years in the wilderness. We have the 10 commandments. We have manna brought down like dew every day. What was that song we started with? He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. When we're looking at the Exodus as they leave Egypt, it's very clear to see God leading them. A pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night to lead his nations. He's got them right in his hands. He's right there with him. But they fall away. And they reject God because they forget or they did not see. Blessed are those who have seen and believe, but even more so are blessed those who have not seen, yet still believe. They say, give us a king so we can be like the other nations. They forget how God has them in his hands. So Samuel gives them this warning, and Samuel tells them, you're going to be taxed. He's going to take your sons to be in his army. He's going to take your daughters to be his slaves and servants. He's going to take the finest of your cattle as a tax. I don't know about any of you. I'm not a big fan when I have to pay taxes. When taxes were withheld from my pay, especially when I first started a job, thinking, yeah, I'm going to make $500 this paycheck. And all of a sudden it's $350. Well, that doesn't go quite as far as I wanted it to, or as I thought it would. And this, I pay my taxes. I'm not saying don't do that. But it's some of the stressors that come. Because now today. We have to pay our taxes to the government. If you're self-employed, that goes up dramatically. But then if you follow God, you're supposed to give 10% of your income as an offering. That's what we're called to do, whether you do that or not. I'm not saying you have to give 10%. That is between you and God. But we look at that and all of a sudden, boom, there's 20% of your pay taken. See, God hasn't asked them to stop giving offerings, but they're still asking for a king. God says you're going to be taxed doubly. Now, that's just a small tangent, but it's what the people see, all because they want to be normal. They want to fit in. So in verse 19, the people refused to listen to Samuel. No, they said, we want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations with a king to lead us and go out before us and fight our battles. The king will fight our battles, right? How often do you see a king on the front lines? Not often. How often is God on the front lines? Every time. And he's been there long before we get there. When Samuel heard all that the people said, he repeated it before the Lord, and the Lord answered, listen to them and give them a king. So Samuel told everyone to go back to their towns. And they get a king of kings that on physical appearance, he's a man's man. Richard's not here today, so I'm the tallest one here by a good chunk. He's even taller than me, a head and shoulders taller above everyone else. Saul, handsome, absolutely, charming, physical, muscular, a leader if ever I saw one. Corrupted as any other. Sure, he does some good. Then we get to David, and David seems to be a good king. And then we really see the tax in Solomon. As he gets such a great household, as he has 700 wives, 300 concubines, and all of a sudden you have to pay for his family to eat. And we see that tax increase. If you're in Sunday school, we're going to be starting to cover what happens after Solomon. We just finished Solomon's death. And one of the pleas of the nation of Israel is to lower their taxes. So Samuel anoints the first king of Israel, Saul, who does good, who looks good. But he doesn't have the whole world in his hands. He doesn't even have the nation of Israel in his hands. Because when Goliath comes and stands before the army of Saul, does the king go out and face him? No. It's a shepherd named David that Saul tries to get to wear his armor so Saul can still take the credit. But it doesn't work. When we look at these rulers, these leaders, these kings of our lives, what we're saying is Jesus doesn't have us in his hands. And these kings, these rulers, they're not always people. It can be your spouse. It can be your family. It can be your children. It can be money. It can be a job. We talked about it in Sunday school a little bit. One thing that I find myself being a slave to is time. My time clock says if I'm not 10 or 15 minutes early, I'm late. And that's if I'm meeting someone somewhere. If we're having something here at the church, I'm at least here an hour before anyone else is supposed to be here. It drives Cammie up a wall. It does. It drives other people up a wall. Because I find myself being a slave to time. Well, that's not a thing. How does that happen? Now, I still worship God. I still follow God. I hope time doesn't take me away from that. But then it becomes a point of contention. In our house, we have a distinction. Are we leaving on time or on TJ's time? I wish I was joking. We're not. That's just one example. And I'll let that take me away from time with God. If I'm having a slow start on a Sunday morning, I don't end my devotion later because I rolled out of bed later. I still end at the same time because I got to be to church. I got to open it up. Now, most of the time that isn't a problem. But in those situations, I'm letting it take me away from my devotion. And I'm putting time, the time that it is, above God. But Jesus has the whole world in his hands. Now, we don't think that's a bad thing, but it can be, because it's just the starting point. Another temptation could be a promotion at work. You work and you fight for it, and you take time away from every other aspect of your life to go towards that promotion. And then you get it, but you still have to work that hard because you've set it as a precedent now. Another one is being normal. Some of us don't like to stand out. We want to be normal. And that's what Israel wrestled with. They didn't want to stand out. They wanted to be normal. They wanted to be like the rest of the world, when we aren't called to be like the rest of the world. We are called to stand out, to be different, that we act so differently people call us weird. Jesus teaches us on this as well in Matthew chapter 6, if you want to start turning over there if you have your Bible. Matthew chapter 6. Jesus comes in the flesh. Our King of Kings, our Lord of Lords, our Savior. And he gives us ample warning, but one such verse is Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 24. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Easier said than done. I want to have a nice house. I want to have a roof over my head. I want to have 3 good meals a day. Good meals. I want to have a car that I fit in. That was a big one when I first started here. I wanted a car that I could sit up in, that I didn't have to slouch in. You know what happened 3 days after I got that car? I left it unlocked and somebody raided the change in it. I'm glad they didn't destroy the rest of the car or anything like that. I come out and the door's just a little ajar. Do not store for yourself treasures on earth, but treasures in heaven. This isn't saying neglect yourself here on earth, because it's foolish for us to have a family and not take care of it. Even the pagans do that, so we're viewed as even worse than the pagans if we have a family and cannot provide for them, if we do not take care of them. But where is your eternity? Where is your heart at? Because it is in our family, absolutely. But to bring them to God, that we could share eternity with them. In verse 22, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? So we talked about our heart, and the first, where are you storing your heart? Is it in the things of the earth, the ways of the flesh, or is it in the ways of God, in the house of God? Next is the eyes, because they feed the heart. Where are you looking? Are you looking down to see how awful, how hopeless this world is, how much evil there seems to be around us, or are you looking up? That I can face whatever tomorrow brings because I know that He is with me. A quote I've been seeing recently is, well, God will never give me more than I can bear. That's wrong. It's harsh, but it's wrong. God will absolutely give you so much more than you can bear because it teaches us to rely on Him. And we need to see that He's got us. He's got the whole world in His hand. He lets us go through hardship and trials, so at the end we can learn that He's got you and me, brother, in His hands. And He lets our families and siblings go through hardships without, on the other side, we can see He's got you and me, sister, in His hand. He's got the whole world in His hand. But if we're not seeing it, then we're filling our body with darkness, and it's only a matter of time before our heart succumbs to it as well. No one, in verse 24, can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. That's what Jesus is talking about here. Money is a big one that we become slave to have the newest gadgets, to have something to brag about, have something to show off. We go into debt to have the newest things. I'll be the first to say, I made a mistake when I bought my car. I should have waited and saved up to have money down. I didn't. I'm paying for it. And now Cammie and I are having to pay for that choice. You cannot be a slave to two masters. You see, if I'm a slave to time, then I'm not giving my whole heart to God. If I'm ending my devotion short, what if there was just a couple more verses I needed to read for God to have a breakthrough in my life, but I cut it short because I have to come to the church and unlock, even though I still sit in the fellowship hall for 15 minutes before any of you show up? It's true, because I want to be here first. I want to make sure everything is good before anybody is here. Even if we use the excuse that it's for good. It sounds good that I would, and that just because I'm ending my devotion, I'm still coming to church, right? That's great. But then I'm not giving God my all, because that 45 minutes was now cut down to 30. And how long before that 30 is cut down to 20, and that 20 to 10, that 10 to 5, and then I just stopped doing devotions. It doesn't have to be a big leap at first. It starts small, but it becomes apparent to those around us as well as ourselves who leads our lives. Who is our king? Is it King Time, King Money, King Job, or King Jesus? You see, that's the question we have to ask. As we get ready for school, I know we've got quite a few teachers and aides and helpers for schools in here. Do we become a slave to our students? Now, it's good to help them. I'm not saying that we don't devote ourselves, that we don't give them our time, effort, and energy. Do good at what we're doing. Bring God into it, though. What is the reason we do our jobs? To be a teacher, to give the light of God to these children who might not have it at home, to give them hope, help, and encouragement, even if we can't talk about God, or for those of us who are parents that have been babysitting, and we might be cheering that we don't have to babysit anymore because the summer's ending and the kids are just wearing us down. But what was the point of the summer? To continue to share love and light with the kiddos. To bring them to church, to let them see Jesus through you. There are so many things that can fight for our attention, that fight to be the kings of our lives. I know at times, when I get very excited for it, many might think it's bowling for me. But I hope that even though I show excitement for bowling, there's never a question that God is the Lord of my life. That even with football, music, cars, Dodge, Ram, whatever they're the same, Dodge, Chrysler, Ford. We have so many things that we can be passionate about. But we have to be careful that these passions don't take over our lives. Because God has shown us, the Bible shows us, that He's got the whole world in His hands. He's got the whole wide world in His hands. He's got you and me brother, in his hands, and he has you and me, sister, in his hands. So let's unite under King Jesus, because he's got the whole world in his hands. That includes time, money, job, career, family, anything it might be. He's got the whole wide world in his hand. I don't want to be a slave to one singular aspect. I want to be a slave to the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, King Jesus, who sacrificed himself for my sins. Because he loves me. He loves you. And he's got us in his hands. If you need to accept the hands of Jesus for the first time, to publicly confess that he's got you in his hands, and I invite you to come down this aisle and accept the waters of baptism. Jesus wants to know that he's got you in his hands. And in the same way, if you want to come and become a member of the church as God holds us as the church in his hands, and I challenge you to come down this aisle and do that. And for those of you watching online, I challenge you, if not our church, to go to church and see how Jesus has the whole world in his hands. It's not just us, but those around us as well. Those outside of us, those outside of those around us, the people we interact with, they see quite clearly who rules our lives. So my challenge to us today, this week, is that we're so devoted to Jesus that there's no question about what else there is. That even though they might see our passions, they see our devotion to Jesus. So as we stand and sing our invitation song, let's give it to the cross and let's accept Jesus, who has the whole world in his hands. I invite you to stand as we sing.